Hey, good morning. If you're catching this by the time this gets uploaded anyway, Saturday, November the 14th, I wanted to go over a little bit of the Pfizer stuff with the vaccine that's supposedly going to be saving everybody and some of the details about it that people may or may not know about. One of the things that people might not be aware of either, your casuals who don't follow much news might not be aware of this, but the Pfizer CEO sold 62% of his stock the same day of the vaccine announcement. And so I'm going to show you what the story is on that. When Pfizer Inc. and German partner BioNTech announced on Monday that their COVID-19 vaccine was highly effective, global stock soared. Shares in Pfizer rose 7%, and Chief Executive Albert Bourla sold $5.6 million of his stock. This drew some negative attention, but Pfizer rolled out a tried and tested response. The sale of these shares is part of Bourla's personal financial planning and a pre-established 10B51 plan, which allows under SEC rules major shareholders and insiders of exchange-listed corporations to trade a predetermined number of shares at a predetermined time. So he has a small window to actually move his own personal stock within his company so that he's not dragging it out for too long. Like, I guess it's an idea to keep it fair, so it kind of explains that, all of which is correct. Executives usually cannot trade their company's stock outside a short window that follows quarterly results. However, the Securities and Exchange Commission, that's the SEC, makes an exception for pre-programmed sales. The idea is that if you set up a trade to execute automatically in months or years ahead, you are unlikely to be unfairly abusing inside information. So, at any rate, this is the release date, Monday, November 9th. You can see the stocks were slowly building as they were probably looked to be promising for having a vaccine. And boom, that's when he dumped 62% of his stock in his own company, you see. So he was able to execute it at a time when it was worth $5.6 million, because if he would have done it the day after, it would have declined to 4.8 million. So he managed to make not quite another $1 million. Yeah, so that's how that is anyway. He dumped it at the opportune time. Although there is reasons why there might not be as much confidence in this protection as there should be. I mean, besides the fact that this vaccine has been rushed out horribly anyway, way too short of a time, and then all the trials that are for post-injection are basically going to be guinea pigged on people who start getting the virus, because there's complications that can come from that. So we'll go into 5 reasons, or 5 questions about Pfizer's vaccine. What's good, what's bad. So, number 1, how long will the vaccine protect patients? Pfizer says that as of last week, 94 people out of 40,000 in the trial had gotten ill with COVID-19. While it didn't exactly say how many of the sick had been vaccinated, the 90% efficacy figure suggests it was a very small number. The Pfizer announcement covers people who got 2 shots between July and October, but it doesn't indicate how long protection will last or how often people might need boosters. Now, according to Klaus Schwab, I've seen a video of him talking, and this is the head of the World Economic Forum, who's capitalizing on this pandemic for the Great Reset, suggests that you might need yearly shots for this thing, or that as it mutates, we'll need to create new shots for it constantly. So constantly creating these new vaccines and rushing them out to a scared, bleeding sheep-like public. So it's a reasonable bet, but still a gamble that protection for 2 or 3 months is similar to 6 months or a year, said Dr. Paul Offit, a member of the FDA, that is likely to review the vaccine for approval in December. So, I mean, he probably knows a certain degree that, you know, this much time is probably the equivalent to that much time for how vaccines trend. Trusting the FDA is not necessarily an easy thing to do, though. I mean, like I said, this has already been rushed out anyway. They're willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. They are also, you know, the ones who've allowed Monsanto to poison you with their boosting of glyphosate in their herbicide. Why did they have to do that? Because the herbs got stronger than their original formula of Roundup, so they had to boost the strength, and so that's led to problems that have been kind of not talked about too much for a while now, but it led to a good number of countries around the world banning it because of tests in rats showing that they were getting extreme stomach problems, stomach cancer. So I think about the timing of that and say 10,000 plus years of humans eating grain, and suddenly we have all these gluten intolerant people right around the time that Monsanto increases its poison for herbicides. So I think that that's more correlated than humans suddenly not being able to eat bread. And it's fucking retarded, the lies that they tell us anyway. What else can we say? The company did not release any safety information. To date, no serious side effects have been revealed, and most tend to occur within 6 weeks of vaccination. So we're outside of that 6 weeks now, with the last test subjects for these 2 shots being in October. But scientists will have to keep an eye out for rare effects such as immune enhancement, a severe illness brought on by a virus's interaction with immune particles in some vaccinated persons, said Dr. Walt Orenstein, a professor of medicine at Emory University and former director of the immunization program at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So, like I said, there could be bad things that are going to happen to people down the road, depending on what their what kind of immune particles they may already have in their system, and the reaction might not come till later than 6 weeks, and they know this. So will it protect the most vulnerable? Now, this is the most important question. We know that the most vulnerable are the ones that are dying from this mostly. The 1% of the population that's most vulnerable are the ones that are actually going to die from this and not just get over it, most people. So, like most people do. So anyway, Pfizer did not disclose what percentage of its trial volunteers are in the groups most likely to be hospitalized or die of COVID-19, including people 65 and older and those with diabetes or obesity. This is a key point because many vaccines, particularly for influenza, may fail to protect the elderly, though they protect younger people, which is absolutely true. According to CDC, vaccines for influenza are 40 to 60% effective. So at the high end, if you're already healthy and good, 60% effective, slightly over half. And on the low end, 40%. So, and in the 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was even lower than that. The vaccines were only 30% effective that year. And that's for, again, the most vulnerable people. That's who usually goes and gets the damn flu shots. So we're looking at reducing by half the amount of deaths that it already takes, which is like 1% of the population, if that, with all the gerrymandered numbers. So anyway, both the National Academy of Medicine and the CDC have urged that older people be among the first groups to receive vaccines. There you go, go hard. It's possible that vaccines under development by Novavax and Sanofi are likely to begin late-phase clinical trials later this year. May be better off for the elderly, often noted, which means that if we're going to get anything out to them, they have to wait. So who knows what it's going to look like for the timing of the release on all this stuff. But those vaccines contain immune-stimulating particles like the ones contained in the Shingrix vaccine, which is highly effective in protecting older people against shingles. Can it be rolled out effectively? This is the problem. The Pfizer vaccine, unlike others in late-stage testing, must be kept super cooled on dry ice around 100 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, which is minus 37 degrees Celsius for my Celsius-wielding friends. From the time it is produced until a few days after before it is injected. So it has to be kept extremely cold for it to be any good. Maybe that's why Buddy pumped and dumped his own fucking stocks. Is that who knows how easy it's going to be to even get this out to people? I mean, how effective is it going to be? Someone messes up and it doesn't stay cold enough, or I don't know. It doesn't seem like a very good method to me. Anyway, Pfizer has devised an elaborate system to transport the vaccine by truck and specifically designated cases to vaccination sites. Public health workers are being trained to handle the vaccine as we speak, but we don't know for sure how well it will do if containers are left out in the Arizona sun too long. So in Canada, we're not going to have that problem right now. We're freezing here now anyway. But we sure as hell aren't minus 37. So that means that even if it starts to drop below that number, it's going to start deteriorating the mRNA that's in it that is required to get the vaccine into your cells. That's the problem. We don't know for sure how well, Arizona, blah, blah. Mishandling the vaccine along the way from factory to patient would render it ineffective, so people who received it could think they were protected when they were not. Like I said, man, all it takes is less than 37. If that shit's sitting at even minus 20, which is freezing, like freezing cold, it's going to be deteriorating at that temperature. So this isn't very good, in my opinion. Could a premature announcement hurt future vaccines? There's presently no way to know whether the Pfizer vaccine will be the best overall or for specific age groups because it hasn't been tested that rigorously. But if the FDA approves it quickly, which they probably will, that could make it harder for manufacturers of other vaccines to carry out their studies. So yay for Mr. Pfizer. They're making his 5.8 million or whatever it was there. So if people are aware that an effective vaccine exists, they may decline to enter clinical trials, partly out of concern they could get a placebo and remain unprotected. Indeed, it may be unethical to use a placebo in such trials. Many vaccines will be needed in order to meet global demand for protection against COVID-19, so it's crucial to continue additional studies. Now, it's unfortunate that it could hurt potential future vaccinations being developed because this one has to be kept at that critical temperature. Other vaccines don't need to be that. They're being worked on, at any rate. Scientists are vitally interested in whether the small number who received the real vaccine but still got sick produced lower levels of antibodies than the vaccinated individuals who remain well. So I don't even know that. Blood studies of those people would help scientists learn whether there is a correlate of protection for COVID-19, a level of antibodies that can predict whether someone is protected from the disease. If they had that knowledge, public health officials could determine whether other vaccines under production were effective without necessarily having to test them on tens of thousands of people. But it's difficult to build such roadmaps. Scientists have never established correlates of immunity for pertussis, and for example, although vaccines have been used against those bacteria for nearly a century. Blah, blah. Still good news, said Joshua Sharfstein, Vice Dean at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, and a former FDA Deputy Commissioner. He said, I hope this makes people realize we're not stuck in this situation forever. There's hope coming, whether this vaccine or another, whether it's this vaccine or another. Now, hopefully it doesn't mutate and change and whatever else, but like I said, Mr. Schwab seems to think that this is something that'll have to be controlled yearly. We'll always have to keep an eye on COVID for fucking ever. That's because they don't want to waste their opportunity for the Great Reset, as I stated in my other video yesterday, which is kind of a preliminary to some of the Great Reset. I read a couple chapters out of his book that he put out this year, that we must capitalize on this Great Reset while it's here. Don't waste the crisis, right? Another thing I kind of forgot to add in that is that he says specifically we need to change our eating habits. Well, look at one of the biggest businesses under attack right now. It's restaurants. So they don't want you traveling as much, and they don't want you eating as much red meat. Well, if you get rid of restaurants and you get rid of all that traveling, which isn't necessarily very much to just drive to the restaurant in town, but then I guess all of the other traveling required to bring all the food to the restaurant, which still makes no sense to me, because you have to bring the food into the area that people live one way or another, whether it's grocery store or a restaurant. I mean, the damaging things that they're doing to everybody is also partially, I think, put people out of business to the point where, you know, they create a more desperate situation. I'm not saying they're going to get away with it, but I suppose they're edging in on trying to buy people's debt back in exchange for their property or whatever else, so it's not good. Anyway, moving on to Trudeau. This is a little slightly older, but I have some harsh criticism of this. So we've already secured millions of doses, Prime Minister Fuckface says, of promising COVID-19 vaccine candidate, blah, blah, blah. Fuck whatever. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said today that Pfizer's promising COVID-19 vaccine trial is an encouraging development and could be the first step towards restoring Canada's social and economic life. If all goes well, he said, Pfizer vaccine should be available to Canadians sometime over the first 3 months of 2021. We will see... we see the light at the end of the tunnel, Trudeau told a COVID-19 briefing with reporters. We are hopeful we are getting there because our scientists are working incredibly hard. What do you mean, our scientists? These are Pfizer's motherfuckers. I suppose we probably have people maybe involved with it too for our Canadian FDA, but whatever. Piss me off. U.S.-based pharmaceutical giant Pfizer said today an early analysis of its novel coronavirus vaccine trial suggested the vaccine was more than 90% effective, blah, 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 blah. I kind of went over that already. Things that I don't like. There we go. Canada's already placed orders with Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech for 20 million doses of the 2-dose vaccine, so that it can be deployed here as soon as the company gets the necessary regulatory approvals from Health Canada. So maybe that's the scientists he's talking about working on whatever. Our scientists working on fixing this shit up so everybody can get their shot if they want it. That was more what I wanted to talk about with him doing what he's doing. He's spending tons of money on all these fucking vaccines already before they've even been tested. Down here somewhere. I'll find it quick and then that'll be the end of the video for this. But we've already procured... Oh god, so there's another vaccine that has to be stored at -75, which could make the logistics more complex. No kidding, how about even trying to keep it at -37? Fucking idiots. Oh damn. Come on, I wish I had a highlighter. I need to learn more about my computer. Oh, there we go. Okay, there it is. All told, the federal government has secured 358 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines from 7 different companies. An insurance policy if some of the vaccines in development prove to be ineffective in clinical trials. It's not much of an insurance policy if you've already purchased 10 times the amount of vaccines than there is population from 7 different companies. It's a big crapshoot with all these companies. So the vaccines that don't work, we're already going to eat the charge on this. So this is just going to put us in more debt too. God knows how much these fucking vaccines cost each. That's something I should maybe look into too. But anyway, for now, that's all I'm going to sort of shoot and show for now about COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer. So hopefully that's informative to people and makes you think a little bit. And I'll be looking to get another video out today on that book I was showing yesterday. So thanks for watching. I'm going to go have breakfast and then I'm going to get back to doing a little bit of work on Saturday. Oh no, don't stone me to death. Anyway, peace out.